Good morning, Denver Startup Week. Good morning, Denver Startup Week. I'm Eric Matisek, and I'm one of your fearless leaders to help us navigate the next couple days as we enjoy all things free and awesome at Denver Startup Week. It's always incredible when you have some of the best knowledge and the most intellectual thinking around how to build and scale companies in the state. And our next session is sure to impress. We have Quantum Metric from 0 to $1 billion in Colorado. You guys get to meet Mario Chavara, the founder and CEO of Quantum Metric, one of the fastest growing SaaS software companies in the history of Colorado. As a leader of continuous product design, Quantum Metric has started to help companies improve how organizations use their data, understand their customers, and build a customer-defined digital products faster. Mario's going to be having a great discussion with a fellow entrepreneur and one of our leading founders in the state of Colorado, Dan Caruso. This is going to be interactive. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. I welcome Dan Caruso and Mario Chavara to the stage to have an awesome discussion on how to go 0 to $1 billion right here in Colorado. Thank you.
Hey, if we can start by all you guys grabbing out your mobile phones and texting all your friends that are here at Denver AI and tell them they need to be in this room because this guy is a rock star and he is an inspiration and his company's an inspiration to all things that are possible in Colorado and entrepreneurial world. And this room should be filled to the hilt. So I'm gonna give everyone 20 seconds. Get notes out to your social circles and tell them, get from, I don't want to diss whoever's downstairs, but get one more flight of stairs and gonna kill them. Get up here, get a few more steps in and listen to this. And then what I want to start with, Mario, is I want to start with your product. And if you do such a great job giving people visualization of what it is you do and why you do it from the perspective of the customer, can you describe what it is that you guys deliver?
Yes, and Dan, thank you for being here. We did some last-minute shuffling to grab Dan to do this, so thank you. And thank all of you for being here as well. I think the purpose of why I'm here, and I hope why you're here, is to learn a little bit about the journey and what can you take away. So I think Eric mentioned making it interactive. I don't know how to do it, but if you raise your hand and you want to interject, let's go. We're here to share a story for you, not for us. As far as what we do, and I think I'd start from sharing not just what we do, but how did we come up with this conversation? So one of our first developers is in the room right here, Aaron. So thank you, Aaron, for helping make this product come to life. And there's a few alum and a few current team members in the room as well. One of the things I came to find out about when you get someone like Dan to say, what do you do? That journey of uncovering what you do is so critical. And we'll talk a little bit about that if you want, Dan, or to the audience here. But in the early days, so I was just thinking about Aaron here, we would talk about, have you guys ever gone to a website and had a bad experience? And I already know the answer, right? And I see some heads nodding. Of course you have. And then what did you do? Right? And then and some people would say things like, well, I cursed at it, and et cetera, et cetera. And often people would say something like, well, yeah, I went somewhere else. And then think about, I would ask them like, did you call them and tell them that the site didn't work? Did you email them? Did you tweet at them or X them? I don't know what that verb is anymore. But
there is a verb for that.
Is there a verb? Is it X? I don't know. Is it not
What's
tweet?
the word for, it used to be tweet now on X? I just learned it 3 days
Message?
ago.
I don't know.
No one? Someone told me it.
It's not X, I guess.
Right.
So
that's the job you guys have to figure out what that word is.
Whatever that is, you're not being contacted by customers that are frustrated on your digital experience, and then put yourself in the shoes of the people that own that digital experience. How do you find out about those people that wanted to transact with you but couldn't? And then we would talk about how that's what we do. We help you understand in a quantified way. And so that's how we started the product. And I just want to dissect that, and then I'll tell you kind of how I share what we do today. But I just wanted to share a little bit about that journey. And if you think about how I made you feel when I asked the question, have you ever gone to a website and had a bad experience? How many of you got this like, oh, freak, I hate that? How many of you, just raise your hand, like, I hate that experience? And what I've come to find out is that gets burned in your head. 5 years after I said that to someone, like literally 5 years, I got a text message, I'm on XYZ website, it sucks, can you fix it? I hadn't talked to that person for 5 years, but it burned in his head, that feeling, that emotion. I hate shitty websites, and he'll never forget what we did. I don't know, Dan, like what you would say, what we do, if it's somewhere around that. But what we've come to figure out, just through an advancement this year, is a slightly different story. But
So I'm on a website that uses your product, and I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and I can't go to another one because I need to get a hold of them. I need I need something from them, and I get stuck, and so I start to get frustrated. How does your product come into play?
Yeah, so think about a bank, your telecommunications provider, your media provider, like people that have a captive audience with you, your airline, your travel, et cetera. What we do is we capture each experience on that website with full fidelity. We can see exactly what they saw, and then more importantly than that, we can quantify it. So we see that there's a friction here. Like for example, I clicked reset password and nothing happened. And that's just, 1 out of 1,000, 10,000 different problems that could happen. And then, okay, well, what if Dan was the only one whose reset password button didn't work? Well, sorry, Dan, like try again. But what if 10% of your customers hit reset password and it didn't work? And so we're helping these organizations understand where the pain points are without people filling out surveys or complaining or whatever the heck the tweet word is, without them sending that information directly. Like, couldn't we infer where their problems are and then quantify, like, wow, this is your biggest pain point in your business. For example, in some of those captive businesses like a bank, what do you do when you try to make a payment through your bank and it doesn't work? You probably call them because they have you as a captive audience. That on average is about $10. If you talk to any bank, they don't want to pay the $10 anymore for you to call in. And you're not that happy as a banking customer having to call in, I can presume. So how do we stop that from happening? How do we tell them where the pain is? Because they hear 20,000 different problems a day. What are the top 3? So helping them understand where the real frictions are.
Yep. And so you guys are taking off. You're already unicorn. I suspect you're unicorn times some number at this point if you were to raise money again. So who are the customers, maybe not by name, although it could be by name if you share them, but who are the customers that are giving you so much money that make you a unicorn and beyond for helping them improve their online experience?
We were lucky early on. My brother's a founder and entrepreneur, and by chance, he got me our first customer. It was a Fortune 300 customer, so that was kind of a fun landing spot. But through that journey over the last 9 years, what I'm really excited to share is that we have the world's largest bank, airline, telco, healthcare, gaming, and retailer, amongst many others, as customers. The world's largest brands partner with us to help do what I just described. Like, where is the friction? Like, where are their customers finding friction in their digital experience and either not transacting, not remaining loyal to their brand, or doing that painful thing of calling in and costing them a bunch of money and the customer's not happy. So it's the world's largest brands use Quantum, and it's really exciting to be able to partner with those because they're the hardest to win. They're the most judgmental. They have the most time. They have the most resources to choose who can be our best partner to help us succeed here. And so it's exciting that they partner with us.
Yeah. And so this isn't your first rodeo. You've had other startup experiences, including other successes, but this one you're doing on a scale that's bigger than the prior ones. So let me start with a question that's more personal. The question is, why are you doing this? And by why are you doing this, I don't want you to talk about you want to fix this problem for these companies and those users, but why are you putting your life and soul into trying to build a company from scratch again and take it to be a multi-billion-dollar company? Where does that come from? And what approach are you taking this time around that maybe is different than approaches you took the other times?
I grew up just in the outskirts of Philadelphia. And in fact, Jake here in the front row went to high school with me. I had 5 siblings. I was the youngest of 6. My dad grew up in Italy. So there's something to this like immigrant family that's not really well off that inspires this desire to be successful. I think, there's other inspirations for success, but for me, my brother, I would definitely look back at how did I end up here? And I think that environment just breeds this desire to succeed. if you look at my high school journey, you'll see an entrepreneur. If you look at my collegiate, I mean, I did a startup in high school, did a startup in college. I did a startup when I was 25, and I sold it when I was 26. It's very fortunate, like all these great things happened. It was a company of one. I just wrote software on my nights and weekends, and I sold to a company called CompuWare in Detroit, and it gave me financial freedom. And I left CompuWare and I traveled the world to 27 countries, and I was just like, hey, this is great. I've got my financial freedom. This is kind of an early on goal of mine. What do you do now? I'm 26 years old. What do you do now? Like, it can't be creating a startup to make more money, because I don't need more money.
You always need more money.
Yeah, it's not like, but I thought, I actually really, like, through my high school years in that environment, I was like, oh, I need to go make money. So I made money, but now you hit that goal, and I didn't, like, it's really like, and we're talking about it in media today, like, what about the American dream? Is the American dream still alive in America? And it is, it's absolutely alive, but I kind of started thinking, and I kind of kept saying to myself, what's life like after the American dream? And I started literally asking that question to random people in like restaurants or anyone that would listen to me, like, hey, what would you do if you had all the money you wanted? And I started like honing in on a word that, I don't know if it resonates with you, Dan, because you're a founder and you've had this great success, but like happiness. And I came to realize that happiness is something that you guys get to define individually. I can't tell you what happiness is for you. I can tell you what it is for me. And I came to realize that I love doing what I love doing. And for me, I started a family, which was really important to me. But I also love coding. And I loved creating a business. And so I went off and created 2 more of them. They were successful. And I can talk about them if you want, Dan. But starting Quantum, I want to make something way bigger. And all 3 of the first startups, and if you excuse the high school and college startups, but maybe them too, they were all like 1 to 3 people. I wanted to create something bigger, and I came to realize to do something bigger was going to require a lot of people. And maybe it's a center of topic for our discussion today, but I started realizing while I love coding and I love creating a business and creating success, to create something great, it was going to require people. And I started to have to shift of this focus of like, let's just create great product, it will just explode and be successful. But how do you create a great culture? And that journey, I'm like constantly getting better at. So I think this, like, creating an environment where we can create a community that people, and I use this word, and I know my CMO was in town. She lives in San Diego. She couldn't make it today, but I remember her saying about 3 or 4 years ago, when people ask me what it's like at Quantum Metric, the first word that comes to my mind is love. And I would never use the word love at work. Like, it's just not a word I would describe my work environment. And she uses the word love, and it's very different, and she is, from her perspective, is what she said. And I love love. Like, I just, like, why don't we show up to work and love the people that we work with and enjoy our day? And if you're not doing that, I don't know why you're showing up to work. So there's kind of like the why behind I do this. It's not creating, I think in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, it was like, let's go create some magical number of value. And I've come to realize, like, if you look back at any of these journeys, do you really care about 1, 5, $20 billion? I know those are big numbers and they're exciting, but I don't think that we'll all remember, oh, wow, look, $10 billion, wow, that felt good. I think we'll remember how we felt on the journey, how we made others feel along the journey. And it sounds so cheesy, and I don't know if that's why you came here today, but that's what makes me happy every day.
Yeah, and I'm going to, not so much challenge you, but I'm going to put out something there that you're at a certain point on a journey, and when you're reflecting the same thoughts 10 years from now, because I think you're going to have an exit that is going to leave you with, a lot of resource, you're going to shift from how you're thinking about this. The first shift is when you're going to not be thinking about culture in terms of, your business as part of how you make your business successful, but you start thinking about the legacy effect that you're having on people who are part of your culture, people who are part of your journey, people who are part of your team. And all of a sudden it's going to be like, a culture was a means to a great outcome and very important, but it's not the culture you created that you're then going to be starting to be remembered by. It's the impact, the effect you had on the people who were with you on your journey. But then it's going to shift again after that. At least it has for me, and I think for a lot of others. You start shifting to, okay, I'm past the point where my financial wealth, takes care of scratching whatever itches I have personally, or my family has, and it's more about what are you going to do with it? And some people just spend it. They gamble, they do whatever. But increasingly, a lot of people who create the wealth then start saying, how can I use that wealth as a source of goodness, a source of generating happiness? I think that's a great word for a broader set of people. And there's different ways you can do that, but you're the kind of person I think is going to be part of that kind of bigger arc of a journey, and you're maybe halfway through that right now. But let's talk about, what is it about your culture that has contributed and continues to contribute to the success of Quantum Metric?
I distinctly remember hiring our 17th person, and the whole team went to Las Vegas. We had a conference called Shop Talk, and we're sitting at Javier's. It's so burned in my memory. I don't remember all the details of all the things that we do, but this moment is burned in my memory. And this person sat next to me on my right, and they were starting the next day. So first time I met them in person. And I remember 30 seconds in, I was like, wow, if scaling a company means I have to spend time with people like this, maybe I'm not cut out to scaling a company. I'm not doing this for the money, I'm doing it for the fun, and this became really not fun very quickly. And I went to sleep, and I woke up the next day, and I said, wait a minute, I'm the CEO, I don't have to hire people I don't like, right? That was a serious moment for me, and I was like, well, what is it about people that I like? And I think that it's really easy to fall in the trap of well, I like people that look like me. It's easy. It's easy to fall into that trap because you know how you think, and you know your journey through life. But it can't be that, because you're going to miss out. You're going to really hurt yourself. I think it's one of the challenges. Actually, one of the beautiful things about being in Colorado is you're not in that echo chamber of Silicon Valley where everyone says the same thing. Surround yourself with different perspectives. And I thought about that for a moment. What is it about? What's the core of what I like? It's on the back of my shirt, literally. On the back of my shirt. I'll walk you through all three. Yes, ready, I'll turn around. Passionate people come to work because they love what they do. This is why I show up to work every day. I love what I do. This makes me happy. So I want to find people that are passionate about what they're doing, because I think we're all going through this journey of remote work, in the office, why is there a difference between the two in terms of output? If you find passionate people, do you think you need them in the office? I've had people,
More so than they've been going to office the last few years, maybe not 5 days a week, but yeah, I think people need to learn from being with one another. And I don't think, for most companies and most cultures, and yours might be an exception, 100% remote work, I think is going to prove to be a disadvantage and a liability to organizations that find the right balance.
I can see why in-person works. I was stuck in an office on Monday in one of our customers' locations, all day long in one of their conference rooms. I only had an hour and a half meeting with them, but all 9 hours I was in their office, and it reminded me what it was like to be in the office. And I thought about how it was different than my normal day, and I have a new puppy, and sometimes he has to be taken out and all. There's a lot of distractions at home. So I don't disagree with you, Dan, at all. But I get my work done at home, and I get it done in the office. And I don't know. It took me an hour and a half to get here this morning. It's a 45-minute drive, but you guys know Denver commute. And I don't know. I don't want to do that every day. So anyways, we can debate about it if you want, but whether it's in office or not. But I think if you're going to do remote work, you better find passionate people, because I don't need to micromanage them. I just need to let them loose. Give them a task, empower them to succeed, and go. I love it, passionate. So persistence, that company that I was in the building on Monday, I've been trying to win a partnership with them for 7 years. We're finally there. And I've never felt like I've lost, because we just persist. Keep trying. You only lose when you stop. and we're going to win them finally. It took us 7 years, but that's okay. I'm going to keep trying. And there's just like this idea of if you keep trying, you never really lose. I don't know, that speaks to me volumes. And the last one is integrity. When you win and you're not honest with yourself, your customer, your peers, I came to find it doesn't feel good. It doesn't make me happy. I only want those 3 attributes in the people I work with, and when you do, you get this incredible. I saw Alexa, a former team member here, and she's here, and she's all smiles. I love seeing you. I don't know where you are in the room. I can't find your hand. Oh, there she is. Sorry, I couldn't see your face. And I can tell you, like, Alexa brings me a smile every time I see her, and I know I bring you a smile, and we joke around. But that's how I want an environment every day. Like, surround yourself with people that you love spending time with. Doesn't feel like work. It just feels like a lot of fun. So anyways, like that's the culture, that journey of like that 17th employee set me on the course. Employees 1 through 16, I don't know what culture is, truthfully. It feels like survival. Like every day I wake up trying to survive this business and just get it to the next step. Somewhere 15, 20, 10 to 30, whatever, it starts to transition. And Dan, like, did you feel that when you, with like your startups, like, like you were in survival mode in the beginning, and then all of a sudden there's this transition to like, you have to create a culture and you get to really define that and you create that environment?
Yeah, I mean, earlier in my career, and this is, I was fortunate enough to be part of some really big success stories early in the career. And I used to think that people who talked about culture were how they kept busy while the rest of us did the real work. So I didn't get it, and
yes.
Now though, certainly as I started to be responsible from the CO seat for kind of businesses, including the one I started from scratch, and by that point I started to realize the importance of, and I'm going to start with the word passion, because I think that's a great word. You need people who are passionate about their professional life. Okay, then you got to convert that passion about the professional life into a common cause or common mission, a common purpose, so that you didn't create their passion. You brought people on that had that natural passion. They want to do something of significance, but you're able to harness it through purpose and vision, and then creating a culture. And different types of cultures work. I think the cultures that I was responsible for creating. Someone could have done a better job on the cultural department than I did. At times, I was a pretty relentless kind of leader. But I think it takes that as well for most startups. Most startups, a former professor of mine who's was on my board, and I just did a podcast with him. He did some very significant work about what makes a successful CEO. Now, the work he did wasn't just to give you his opinions, because you could go to a bookstore and find 50 books that will give opinions. What he did is gave you the facts, analytical assessment based on real data that was able to describe those attributes that made for a successful CEO. And for the most part, it's not what Mario has shared with you, but I'm sure it's true with Mario. Any guesses what makes for a successful CEO? Passion? Can someone share that? A little closer. I wasn't able to.
Yeah, she said about just someone that listens and then uses their intellect, because I think what I would interpret that is like I get a lot of advice from 50 different people and they can conflict. I'm listening, but I have to make a decision on which one I'm going to listen to more closely, which one speaks to me. Absolutely.
And that what he says is a lot closer to the answer than I think what you framed. But before we get there. Anyone else?
I got a mic.
Back there?
Yeah.
Self-awareness.
Oh.
Empowering the people. Persistence. Anyone else? Lead by example. Lead by example. I'm sorry, say again? Consciousness. So you guys would have flunked my professor's class. So almost all you are dead wrong, because the attributes, and I could prove to you it's right, because all I got to do is ask you a question and think in your head of the answer, and you're really like, those people don't sound like that. Who's the 5 most successful CEOs in kind of our collective generation? Think who they are. Steve Jobs is one. You don't have to say them out loud, but they're the obvious ones. What were their attributes? Was it compassion? Was it listening? Was it, being a nice person? They had drive, they had intellect. They were visionaries, they were relentless. They would make decisions with a third of the information, but they weren't stubborn. They would pivot and they wouldn't get caught up in someone saying, well, you said this and now you're saying that. You're a hypocrite, you're wrong, you're stupid. They'd be like, okay, that person's off my list of people to talk to for the next 3 years. I want people who are gonna when I say, okay, when I said go that way, I really meant that way. So when I turn, you better turn with me. So it's for the leader of an organization that really makes a business successful. It's not exactly what Mario's telling you. So tell us about who you really are, Mario, because for you to take your businesses, particularly this one, at scale and make it successful, was it really those attributes that made it successful, or was there something more to it?
The truth is, like, when I had the same feeling that Dan said, if people talk to me about culture, when you're in survival mode and people are talking to you about culture, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Really. So if you have a startup and you're less than 15 people and you're in survival mode, I get it. I promise you I get it, and we can talk about that. I mean, I think yes, it's having a drive to succeed. It's having a passion. It's like all of these things, but I think when I look at it, like, I had an idea and I was going to make it successful no matter what.
Now you're talking. That's a big part of it.
Like, what was it? Moxie?
The word moxie, like he had moxie, is that what you mean?
I don't know what the definition of Moxie is, I guess. I know it's a hotel brand. Tenacious, yeah, tenacity for sure, persistence. Determination. I think that there's one common attribute amongst the most successful founders, is optimism. Like, I think you can only get there if you see it first. And I see it. Like, I see it, I see the success, I see the future. I'm not a freaking oracle. I don't have any kind of like sixth sense or some magical power.
Yes, you are. I mean, because every one of those names you guys thought in your head had what he just described. They saw something, had a vision, they were relentless, they were going to, not under their watch, we're going to miss it. They built incredible cultures, but they didn't build it by talking about culture, is my guess. Steve Jobs did not talk about culture. Jeff Bezos did not. Elon Musk spent zero time talking about culture, but the culture of their organizations was a big part of their success. So somehow they created a culture around their individual mistakes and around kind of this thing they saw, just like you're seeing something, we're going to get there, and I need you guys with me to get there. I'm never going to admit that to you guys, because those kind of people typically don't. Maybe they do, but it is about like, we're going to go and we're going to take that hill and we're going to take it together. If you're on board with me, we're gonna succeed as a team. If you're not on board, just get the hell out of our way. I think, and my guess is a lot of that is you. I don't know you that well, but I know you well enough to, feel safe in saying I think that's part of what is creating your success.
Absolutely. There have always been naysayers or doubters, or in your team, in your friend group, in your investor possibilities.
In your parents.
People are going to doubt you, and I love those people still, so don't get mad at me for what I'm about to say. I just didn't care. Like, you can tell me this won't work, you can say that's not...
I keep needing to tell Mario that he's wrong, and I'm going to tell him he's wrong again. You did care, just like I cared. We wanted to prove them wrong.
Yeah,
we almost fed off,
it's true.
That energy.
I didn't care in terms of like, you're not going to convince me I'm wrong or right, or wrong, well, either way, that I'm not right. I cared, but it was almost extra fun when you would prove them wrong. It was just like, and I didn't do it, but it was fun. I'll tell you, I think one of the most fun things, I started asking people, like, when you haven't hired a bunch of salespeople, like, what's important attribute in a sales? And yes, passionate, persistence, and integrity is important, but I found like every different part of the organization needed some specific attributes. And one thing I found probably more than most is competition. Like, salespeople love competition. It was just really fun. And so, like, I have one of my sales team members in the corner. So I hope she's laughing and self-reflecting. She's over there, and she's expecting a new baby and just recently married to Jason. Her spouse is here. So congratulations to you both. And I'm freaking competitive. Like, I've worn every hat in the company, and I just don't know how you succeed if you can't. I just don't. Like, I only know how to succeed if I know what it looks like to be a developer, a salesperson, a marketer. I'm not the best. I hire people better than me at every one of those things. It's really important to keep doing that. But I've experienced every part of just about everyone's job here at Quantum. And for sales, like, finding someone that's competitive was really important. So, I love my brother. He's an entrepreneur I mentioned earlier. We had dinner with him in San Francisco in 2016. He took a picture of us having dinner. He posted it on Facebook. He wrote a caption, "First to a billion wins." And look, you want to get competitive? Like, let's go. And when in 2021, in January 1st, 2021, we announced our $200 million in funding at $1 billion valuation. So my daughter, I have the picture on my phone, she wrote about 100 times on a sheet of paper, "Uncle Chris, you just got beat." And I texted it to the family group chat. So that was really fun.
All right, so we want to get some audience participation here. So maybe we could start by, who's bold enough to tell us that some of what we said is just bullshit, it's just wrong, that it's cruel and unusual and
trying to be derogatory to us. Another one is, you have a question, like, do you want to learn something? Because Dan and I, and by the way, Dan is one of the most amazing founders. Like, if you don't know who Dan is, please Google him, because we didn't do a big introduction of Dan. Dan is an incredibly successful, one of the most successful people in Colorado. You wouldn't know if you just say, "Hey, Dan," because he's a very humble, great guy. But I just want to talk about, like, it's kind of fun to have two, one journeying successful founder, and then one who's just been incredibly successful, like atmospherically.
calling me old.
Like, if you don't know who Dan Cruz is, Google it, and you're like, "Holy shit, I didn't believe I was in a room with Dan." But you have questions for us? Like, what can we share? Because if you came here just to listen to us talk, that's sort of boring, but I'm hoping you're coming here to take something away in terms of, like, hey, how do I do my startup, or how do I start startup, or how do I solve this one problem? What can we answer for you that helps you walk away with some nugget of success?
Great. We have a question here. Do you want to stand up?
And the company, please. Yeah, thank you.
Beat him
Sorry.
to it.
My name's Ben. I do freelance analytics work. But my question is, when you get into persistence and drive, I think it can put you down the side of just throwing your head against the wall. Like, I haven't done weeks where I haven't slept or anything. They weren't actually that productive. So I've even heard CEOs you recognize where they're like, if everyone else is working 40-hour work weeks, my company does 80 just to get a C. And I think it leads to, like, dead weight loss. So with that, it just seen it reductively of persistence and working the hardest versus actually using, like, Pareto principles or zeroing in. What are your thoughts on, like, just that I'm going to win at all costs, but I'm being kind of, like, narrow-minded, like, I'm actually solving key problems that need to be solved?
Ben, I think, and I want Dan to answer too, but I think there's two questions in there. Like, what is the right number of hours to work, and how do you inspire the team for that right hours? But I think the other one is, like, how do you know when to stop? It's like, do everything until the end, right? Like, there's a moment when you say that doesn't work. I'll give you an example at Quantum. Do you want it? Some people come into our organization, they don't buy our software. We really have 350 customers. Our average sale price is about $350,000. You can do some math for me and figure out, we announced beginning of this year, we had surpassed $100 million in ARR. It's about fundraising and getting past these different thresholds. But I really don't work well with a $20,000 account. It's hard to say no. Let's give you $20,000, but that $20,000 will probably spend more time making sure they're successful than what we'll get out of it, and it's not worth it. So coming to the realization of what is really moving your business to success, and what's, I don't say the word's dead weight, but, like, it's just not a good fit for you. And how do you call the ball? I don't know if we're top fans, but how do you call it and say that's not us? And know when, not the word pivot necessarily, but, like, when to say we should stop doing that task, it doesn't work for us. It's not a lack of persistence, but, like, knowing where to persist and where not to. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, so I'll come back to that. But So I just launched a podcast yesterday. Mario's going to be a guest soon. But the drop that has my former professor, Steve Kaplan, we talked more about this topic, and there's a specific paper. So I encourage you guys to kind of get on there and look for that when it comes out if the topic's of interest. But it's hard work alone doesn't make one individual or one company successful and another one unsuccessful, because a ton of hard work on the wrong path, is not going to somehow break through into a business. What these leaders have had that have been very successful is the willingness to pivot early and often. So they're very decisive. We're going to go do this. Decisive before they even know if this is the right this to do. But they say it and they tell them we're going to go do it, but they're very quick to kind of see and hear and absorb what's happening around them. Their feedback antennas are always going, and they either tweak or they pivot so that they're working toward the right path. So intelligence is another word he used to describe kind of the attributes that made the difference for a CEO. And part of it is like they just tend to be a lot more intelligent in kind of measurable ways than kind of the average bloke, and they tend to be very decisive, but not in a stubborn way. Like, hey, I made a decision, that's what we have to do, in a way that provides for flexibility. And that's hard for most people to do, because in essence, you're really good at admitting you're wrong often. That's not a fun thing.
I want to dispel the myth of everyone has to work 80 hours in a startup. But I also am looking and staring at it in front of me, and there was a week, I don't know, in 2015, that we worked 140 hours. I hope you were there, right? I'm saying my memory is fading. We worked 140 hours, and we did math. It is stupid. It's like we weren't getting out the door, and I was tired of it. I was like, we come in week after week, we toil, and we had a Kanban board with all these post-it notes, and I see like the stuff that we have to do, and I see the stuff we got done. I'm like, I can't take it anymore. Like, this company's not going to get started until we move those notes to the finish pile. I think it's the door that we put it on. We set it from the wall to the door. And one of us said, you know what? There's 3 people in a room. We're going to sleep 5 to 6 hours a night, and at the end of this week, we're going to get all those notes done, and we're going to launch the company. And it's not scalable. Like, I can't tell my team to work 140 hours a week, but we did. And it was stupid, and we got it all done. I was really exhausted. I sent my family away for the week. I said, go away, go on vacation, because I'm not going to see you. I'm going to be in the office all day. We barely made it home, passed out, and came back to work immediately when we woke up 5 hours later. And it's like not scalable. And today, in terms of work, I do work 80 plus hours a week. I like it. I love what I do. And I spend a lot of time with my children in the other hours, but I don't want it's not just work 80 hours a week because I want to. But I don't have a mandate, you have to work 60, 70, 80 hours. Like, I think the sweet spot for me is like, if I work 45 to 55, if it's less than that, on any given week, I don't really care. But if it's consistently 30 to 40 hours, like, why are you here? Like, maybe you're not passionate, you should check on that passion meter. Because if you're passionate, like, I don't know how you could possibly work that little. And if you're burning yourself out on the other end, like, this is not sustainable. Like, I don't mind a week of you working maybe 120 if you had to, some crazy reason. But like, a lot of people, it's not sustainable. And I think about, I love challenging Dan on the stage, because we were talking about it earlier, like, I like creating an environment where people get to spend time with their families, and we prioritize the extended parental leave, and like, we just thought a little bit about this is in life, and it's not going to be the dollar amount this company becomes. It's going to be about how we've enhanced our community and our lives. And the conversation with, we didn't necessarily say this one, but if you could build $1 billion plus startup in 5 years, and you had to be ruthless, you had to push people to 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, always, with very little exceptions. Or you could build $1 billion company in, it was 2021, 6 years. So it's like, maybe it's 4 versus 6. I don't know what the real difference would be. Like, maybe we built in 6. If you build $1 billion company in 6 years, maybe you had to be nicer, love, compassionate, empathetic, more like, hey, 40-hour, 50-hour weeks are okay. Like, which one is the answer for you? There's no wrong answer, I promise you that. Which one's the right answer for you? And I think they differ on the answer, and I love them, and I respect them, and I do respect those 5 incredible leaders. And I think if you look at this average of who we hold up as the 5 strongest, most amazing entrepreneurs, I bet you they tend to be a little bit more ruthless in their demands on how many hours you worked. That's okay. I admire them, by the way. I admire them extensively on their success. It's not for me. Like, I don't want to demand that. I want to make room for people's life decisions. And it's just a weird choice that I came to.
Yeah, and where we disagree is I think that's a false choice. I don't think you can decide, hey, I could be, successful at the same level, and I could be there within 5 years by, creating a culture where everyone has to work like a dog, or I could choose 8 years and we work less and get to the same spot. I just think that's a false choice, but I'm not here to add.
Fair and the company's failing, yes, it would not be a choice. But when the company's successful, I think that's when the choice becomes present, right? Like when you hit a threshold, where you have the money, you have the sustainability, you have a future, you're doing really well. I think how hard do you push? And it's just
you don't win a marathon by sprinting every mile. So if you're trying to build something for long-term sustainable success, you have to treat it like a marathon and pace yourself. But you also have to be willing to do what Mario said he did, which was they had a really important milestone they were trying to hit early in the defining moments of the company. And for that period of time, if he would have said, well, we need to work all these hours, but instead of spreading that across 1 week, let's spread it across 3, that probably wouldn't have worked for that period of time. I'm assuming there was a reason you worked that many hours.
For weeks, it wasn't working, Dan. It was not working. For some reason, we would forget what we decided the day before. We just kept wasting time. And it was something magic about just doing it in 1 week.
Get blast through. Okay, another audience participation.
Yeah, we got time for one more, and then we'll wrap up here. So let me make my way over here.
Well, that went quick.
It's fantastic. You want to stand up and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm curious, can you share how you managed the fate of the 17th employee?
Oh my gosh, it was really quick. 4 days later, self-selected, she left. I'm sorry, I tried to avoid this she because I was giving advice because I don't want to pick on a specific sex. We had problems with men and women and others too. So, that person self-selected 3 days later. They filed a lawsuit, but didn't work out for her. It was over. Those 3 days though of working with them. You pick people that you want to spend time with. If you hire someone that you don't want to spend time with, it's not going to work out. I don't care how talented they are, how skillful they are, how much impact they may have. Why would you want to work with someone that you don't want to spend time with? It doesn't make any sense. A lot of people work and they don't like the work. If you start asking questions, do you like the people that you work with? It's I don't think that works. I really need to love the people I work with, and if that doesn't work, I want to show up. I believe that I'll let you help wrap up. I want to leave with one topic. I think it's a topic I really want to share, which is the journey of people and how if you lead with love, if you don't mind me saying those words, I guess, what it means. And I think if you think about a business, I'm here, we're a for-profit company. We've taken $225 million. I carry that on my shoulders because the investors, I feel indebted to them. We better return an outside success. And a lot of founders come in I got to make money, got to make my, growth numbers and make my investors happy and it's harder to trickle down to customers and people. And I stopped for a moment and realized we have 3 company objectives. The first one is happy people, healthy and diverse culture. We gotta make our people happy first. And then the second one is customers as raving fans about how they can't live without us. Make our customers, they give us their money. I better deliver for them. And then a third goal, and it changes slightly every year to year. This one is kind of a rule of 30 company, if you know what that is. It's 30% growth and don't burn any money. Roughly speaking, we're profitable for the first time in the history of Quantum this quarter, and we happen to be growing at 30% this quarter. And I think next quarter at 30% is what it looks like too. So I think we're hitting our goal, not for the year, but for these quarters because we are transitioning into greater growth and success. I really feel like you can't achieve the goal number 3 without having achieved goal number 1 and goal number 2 first. Make your team happy, make your customers love you for what the impact that you have, not just like they like you as friends, which we did, but we added like as like how they can't live without us, because they like you, that's great, but they don't renew. Like they can't run their business without you, is so important. So just not only just the core values, but the 3 company objectives, because I think it's easy to get them backwards. Like, hey, let's make money. If you want to be successful financially, I think look at your people and culture, and look at your customers and make sure you deliver for them. And don't ever forget, like, your customers are what makes your company successful, but of course, your people first. And what do you think? We'll wrap up.
Loudbear.com. Hey, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know Mario the last really 4 years or so. But the way I want to wrap up is I want to ask Mario one question, one very important question, one we should have covered right away. When I brought you to that bare knuckle fight and you left halfway through it, was that really your girlfriend who made you leave, or was it you that couldn't take it?
That's truthfully. I couldn't see you. I just watching people hurt each other doesn't connect. Sorry, if you like boxing or bare knuckle fighting, that's cool. I don't judge anybody if that's what you love. It didn't connect with me. I just couldn't take all the blood and gore, and like, why would you hurt somebody else? It doesn't seem very humanly thoughtful, but I love connecting with great people.
Thank you all. We appreciate you being here.